book by Patrick Lencioni.
Okay.
So one of my clients had me read it, actually had the whole leadership team read it to build the vision of the company. And we use that methodology. And in that methodology, it talks about the ideal team player. Mm-hmm. And the ideal team player is those three things: hungry, humble, and smart.
Okay.
And if you break it down, you can focus your efforts on hiring and firing. If people are not all three of those, it doesn't work. They have to be hungry, they have to be humble, they have to be smart.
So what is the real advantage that most leaders miss?
Most leaders think the advantage is how they do their business, their perfect product, their perfect process, their perfect solution, but it's not. It's the people. The advantage is having a group full of ideal team players. As a founder-led business, if you can get all your players, your team members, as ideal players, that's the advantage in the marketplace.
Do some of them come to the company with like 2 of these, or do you want to find all of these people with 3? Can you like train up certain ones?
They need to be all three. In my opinion, there's probably some ways you can train up some of them, but they're really not about skills. It's about characteristics of somebody. It's what their core beliefs are. It's how they operate. So it's not so much skills. It's more of what are these traits of these people.
So the whole idea of like soft skills versus hard skills. Yeah. Why does hunger matter more when building a high-performing team?
People have to be hungry. They have to be hungry for knowledge. They have to be hungry for learning skills. They have to be hungry to excel. They have to be hungry to move up in the company. If you're not hungry, then you can't be an ideal team player. You look at sports teams and look at football teams and any type of competitive sport. A coach would rather have somebody that's hungry than talented. If they're hungry, you can teach them how to do something. If they're not hungry, if they come in arrogant, they're not going to be a good team player.
When you're starting in maybe a smaller or medium-sized company and you're trying to grow, I think about budget a lot. And so a hungry person usually is going to want to eat up more of that budget. Are you willing to trade, maybe one good person for 2 or 3 bad?
Yeah.
Not bad, but just less hungry people?
I would argue the opposite. I would say that typically when you find somebody that's hungry, maybe younger or maybe earlier in their professional career, so they're striving to learn. It's the people that have bigger egos that want the bigger salary. I'd rather have somebody hungry that can grow into a role and grow into the higher salary and scale up with the company rather than hiring a super A+ player. Again, it goes back to sports. Do you want all superstar Johnny Manziels or whatever, sports player you can think about? Or do you want somebody that is a B player that's hungry to learn, is going to come and do extra practices and want to strive harder and take extra classes online and work extra hours?
So they might be a B player in skill set, but not mindset.
That's
They're an
right.
A player in mindset.
Yeah, and it goes back to, can you coach that? I don't think you can coach somebody to be hungry. I think they have to have an innate perspective and innate personality trait that they're hungry. And if they're hungry, they're going to try harder and they're going to work harder than somebody who is not hungry. Somebody who's not hungry is, they've already arrived at whatever status they think they are in life.
How does humility change the team dynamics, especially when pressure is high?
You've got to have somebody that is humble as an ideal team player. It goes back to, sports analogy. If you have an arrogant player who thinks that everybody's there to serve him, they're not going to get along well with everybody, and they're not going to strive to make the team better. But if you've got somebody that's humble, that doesn't always think about themselves, they think about the team first, that's where the magic happens. It's team before individual. Not that you can't have confidence. Confidence is different than humility. You can have somebody that's confident in their abilities, but if they're humble about it, that's where the secret sauce is.
When identifying somebody like this, are there certain tests you can run people through to identify humble versus arrogant or humble versus confident? Like tell them a story and how they respond to it or something?
I think the challenge with that is there's no litmus test. There's no Scantron, so to speak, that you can do to figure out whether somebody's humble. But you can ask stories. You can ask them, tell me about a time when you had to take the back seat when you really did the work, or tell me about a time when you had to take the second place in your life where you didn't get to be first on the podium. I've always found that if you can ask people to tell a story, it does 2 things. One, it requires them to dig deep into their consciousness, and also it's much harder to lie or tell a fake story and then be able to replicate it and repeat it again if it's not accurate. I like asking people to tell me a story. Tell me about a time where your humility was tested.
What does being smart really mean in a team setting?
It's interesting. You think about smart, and immediately you probably think about intelligence and being on a team, but it's not. It's actually people smart. And people smart is, how do you interact with people? How do you read people? How do you work with difficult people? How do you work with people that need assurance or compliments? And so the smart component is really people smart. When Patrick Lencioni wrote this, he came up with 3 words: hungry, humble, and smart. It makes it very easy to communicate that. The smart part is really about whether they are people smart. And if you're people smart, you can get along with people, you can coach people, you can mentor people, you can be coachable if you're people smart. So it's not intelligence in the things of, did I get straight A's, or did I get a 4.0, or did I graduate summa cum laude? It is people smart.
Which also goes along with the humility aspect.
That's right. That's right.